favorite in the 2024 preseason rankings of the Big 12 Conference. From top contenders in the top of the field to dark horses, I've got all the stats, all the analytics, and the best predictions you need to get hyped for the 2024 Big 12 football season. Let's go right into it, guys. Starting at the bottom, the preseason composite power rating for each of the conference teams. Houston finishes dead last in the preseason rankings, and I think they finish dead last in the conference as well. 2-10 overall. I do not think they win one single conference game. I think the only wins they get against UNLV and Rice in the non-conference season. Number 15, Arizona State, a newcomer in the conference from the Pac-12. They have the 21st hardest strength of schedule in the country. I don't think they do much. They finished 3-9 overall. Only conference win will be against BYU, second to last week of the season. Not much else to say about the Sun Devils. Coming in the first year in the Big 12, they do not do any noise, do not do any damage for the Big 12 landscape. Number 14, Cincinnati, a team that's been there for the second season. Last year they finished 3-9. I think this year they finished 5-7. Do not make a bowl game yet again. Only two conference wins will be against Arizona State and Houston. Not much else to say about the Bearcats. They finished in the bottom quarter of the Big 12 for the second consecutive year in a row. Number 13, another newcomer, BYU. I think last year they finished 5-7 in going into the Big 12. This year they do even worse. The only conference win they think they'll get is over Houston, who I don't think is going to win a conference game. They finished 3-9. I mean, the stats just do not ring well for the BYU Cougars. Going to be another subpar year over there in Utah for the Cougs. Number 12, the Baylor Bears. Team that finished 3-9 last year was preseason rated to be at least in the top half of the Big 12. They finished 3-9. This year, I don't think it's going to be much better. They're going to finish 4-8. Only two conference wins, I do believe, will be against BYU and against Houston. Even though they have the 9th most returning production for an entire team in the entire country, they have a decent, pretty hard strength of schedule. I don't think there's going to do much for the Big 12 this year. Number 11, the Colorado Buffaloes, a team that everybody jumped on. Everybody wants to say they're America's team. I think America hates the Colorado Buffaloes. Last year they started off 3-1. Everybody was in love with them, and then they finished the season 1-7. Did not make a bowl game. Wasn't even close to a bowl game. Had the epic collapse against Stanford, and this year they come in not rated too much higher. They're 46 nationally. They have the 11th hardest strength schedule in the entire country, and that is including their Week 1 game against North Dakota State. Yeah, they have a 72% chance of winning, but North Dakota State is still a dynasty down there in FCS. I think the spread right now is only 9 points. That's not going to be an easy win at all. That's going to be a pretty tough game for them. Not to mention they go on the road at Nebraska. They play at UCF. They get Kansas State, at Arizona, at Texas Tech, at Kansas, Oklahoma State, and Utah. I mean, that is a really, really brutal schedule for the Big 12. I don't think Colorado makes a bowl game yet again. How good the media thinks Shedeur Sanders is, how good Travis Hunter actually is, this team is not going to make a bowl game. They're going to be subpar yet again, and much to the media's dislike, they're not going to do well this season. Number 10 rated team in the preseason rankings for the Big 12, UCF, a team that surprised me about how good I think they're going to do. I think they're going to finish 7-5 this year, get the 5 wins in conference. Last year they finished 6-7. They had the upset win against Oklahoma State, second to last week of the season. This year I think they're going to get a decent amount of wins, but it's not going to be enough to disrupt the entire flow of the Big 12. I think they're going to be a above average team, but nothing going to do to make any noise in the national landscape. Number 9, Texas Tech, a team that everybody had last year as a preseason dark horse pick to make the CFP. They faltered Week 1, and then we're not the same team. They finished at 7-6. This year, I think it's going to be a little better for them, but not too much. I think they're going to win all 3 games in the non-conference, but I think they'll be 5-4 in conference of the Big 12. 42nd in returning production, 34th overall nationally. Not too much else to say about the Red Raiders. Be a good team this year, not a great team. Number 8, the Kansas Jayhawks, a team that is very underrated in my opinion. I'm surprised all the analytics had them this low in the conference. 8th, they are, that's bottom. That's the very bottom of the first half of the rankings. Last year they finished 9-4. They're 33rd rated nationally this year, 83rd in returning production. But their schedule lays it out perfectly for them to make, at least a run at the at-large CFP and, the Big 12. I think they get to 10 wins this year. I think the only losses to be on the road at West Virginia and on the road at Kansas State. I think the rest of the games, though, they have at least a 62% chance of winning, and I think they win all those games. They get the 7-2 in the Big 12, and they have an outside chance of making the conference championship game. Number 7, TCU. The national runner-up 2 years ago. They finished 5-7 last year. Coming to the preseason, rated 32nd this year. I think they're going to be at least above most people's expectations. I think they get to 8 wins this year, get to 6-3 in conference, finish in the top third of the conference. But I don't think they're going to be in contention for the championship game. TCU is going to definitely improve off last year, but not do too much to even be in the CFP consideration. Number 6, Arizona, another team that I think is underrated, and a lot of people, in my opinion, at least for the analytics, they finished 10-3 last year. Very surprising, coming off of only 2 years ago they finished with only 1 win. They have the 28th most returning production. Get a new coach. I think they get the 6 wins in the Big 12 in their first year, coming from the Pac-12. I think this is going to be one of the better dark horse teams to come out of this conference. If they get to 9 wins or even 10 wins, I would not be shocked, because this team has a lot going for them. Their quarterback, Noah Fafita, he's one of the better quarterbacks if not the best, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the Big 12. I think this is going to be a really fun team to watch, and I think they have a chance to make some noise and be a dark horse in the Big 12 this year. Number 5, West Virginia Mountaineers, the team that finished 9-4 out of nowhere. Nobody predicted them to even get to a bowl game, and they got to 9 wins last year. That was remarkable. 32nd most returning production this year. They have the 7th hardest strength of schedule in all of the nation, the hardest in the Big 12. They open up at home against Penn State before taking on Albany and at Pittsburgh, and then their schedule just gets really brutal from them. Kansas, at Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Kansas State, at Arizona, kind of gimmies against Cincinnati and Baylor, and then they finish off against UCF and at Texas Tech. I think this team gets to 6-3 in conference, 8-4 overall, which would not be bad at all given this schedule. I think it's going to be a really successful year again for the West Virginia Mountaineers. They'll finish in the top third, I do believe, for the conference in 2024. Number 4, Iowa State, a team that I am kind of interested in because they finished 7-6 last year, the 25th rated nationally in preseason. But the stat right there, the second to bottom, they have the number 1 most returning production out of any team in the entire country. Passing, rushing, receiving, defensive tackles, and interceptions/turnovers caused. They have the number 1 returning production in the entire country. Their schedule is pretty favorable. They don't have too hard of a schedule for this squad, but I do think they still finish at only 7-5. I think playing at Iowa in week 2, it's going to be a loss, even though they play North Dakota or Arkansas State, their other 2 non-conference games. I think playing at West Virginia, at Kansas, at Utah, and Kansas State is not going to be. It's not going to be too easy for them to try to get to above 8 wins in this year or 5 wins in conference. I think 7-5 is going to be the best prediction for the Iowa State Cyclones in 2024. Number 3, Oklahoma State, the Big 12 runner-up last year, a team that kind of made a run at the late end of the season to beat Oklahoma in that big upset. They come in at 21st nationally in the preseason. Just like Iowa State, though, they have the 3rd most returning production of every team in the country. I think they have a legit chance of getting to 9 wins, but I think all 3 of their losses will come in conference. And I would not be shocked, guys. They play South Dakota State week 1. They have an 80% chance of winning that game. South Dakota State's won the last 2 FCS national championship games, and they have lost 1 game in the last 3 years. I would not be shocked if South Dakota State not only makes that a contest, but actually pulls the upset. You can quote me on that all you want, but I think there's a couple of games that'll be competitive for them. I think the only 2 losses they really will have will be on the road in Manhattan, at Kansas State, and at TCU. I think the game against Colorado or Utah will be a toss-up, which I ultimately think they will beat Colorado but lose to Utah. And I think they get to 9-3, just outside the Big 12 championship game appearance for 2024. The 2 teams I think will be in the conference championship game. The first team will be Utah. Last year they kind of finished disappointing in the Pac-12. They started off, I do believe, preseason top 15, finished with 5 losses. Cam Rising finally returns for this team, though. Everybody's preseason pick to probably win the conference. I think I'm going to agree with them as well. I think they're going to go 7-2 in conference. Only losses to Oklahoma State. I think they beat Oklahoma State. But they lose at Colorado and at UCF. I think this team gets to 10-2. Gets back to the conference championship game. Woodlow will face the Kansas State Wildcats, a team that finished 9-4 last year. Preseason rated 14th. They have a pretty favorable schedule, 44th And I think the only loss I think this team has will be against West Virginia. Every other game, though, they're favored by at least 57% in every game. So I think they're going to beat Tulane, Arizona, Oklahoma State, Colorado, Kansas, and I think even though the last game and the road at Iowa State, I think what's going to call it Farmageddon, I think they're going to beat them and go to the Big 12 championship game for the second time in 3 years, where they do believe they will face Utah. I do not know I cannot project who's going to win that game, but I can almost guarantee you that it's going to be those two that make the Big 12 championship game for the 2024 season. And that is your Big 12 breakdown for the 2024 preseason. Do you agree with the rankings, or do you see some surprises on the horizon? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into all the Power 4 conferences. See you in the next video.